Ngozi stood outside the mansion that had once been her home, her heart heavy with loss. Her husband had betrayed her and thrown her and their children out with nothing. She had nowhere to go, no money, and no hope. But hidden in her late father's old house was a secret that could change everything. The mansion in Ikoyi that once felt like home now stood cold and unwelcoming. Ngozi Uche held her two children, Amara and Chimdi, close as they stood outside the towering gates. She barely had time to pack their belongings into the old sedan that once served as her husband's Emeka before they were forced to leave. Ngozi, you need to go, Emeka had said casually, handing her divorce papers. The house is mine. You can take whatever fits in the car. It wasn't just the house that Ngozi lost that day. In a single moment, Emeka stripped her of her financial security, her identity as a wife, and her place in the comfortable life she had worked hard to build over 15 years. It hurt deeply that Emeka, her husband and business partner, could dismiss her so easily. But the worst pain came from the knowledge that he had been seeing someone else, a much younger woman from Abuja. Their friends had known for months, but never said a word. As the sun set, casting a soft orange glow on the mansion, Ngozi tried to keep her tears at bay. She couldn't break down now, not in front of the children. Where are we going now? Amara, her 16-year-old daughter, asked, arms crossed in irritation. Since the divorce, Amara had grown distant, taking on her father's cold attitude. We'll be going to Nsukka, Ngozi said quietly, knowing Amara wouldn't like the idea. They had no choice but to return to her childhood home in a small village where her late father's house had been left abandoned. Amara rolled her eyes. To that old house? This is all your fault. Her words stung, but Ngozi said nothing. She didn't have the strength to argue. 10-year-old Chimdi, who had been silent, spoke in a small voice. Mommy, when can we come back to Lagos? Ngozi knelt in front of her son and stroked his hair. I don't know, my dear, but we'll be okay, I promise. The journey to Nsukka was long and tiring, but Ngozi tried to stay hopeful. The house in Nsukka, although old and crumbling, had been her sanctuary as a child. It had been left untouched since her father, Chief Okeke, passed away several years ago. She hadn't returned since the funeral, but now it was all she had left. When they arrived, the house looked worse than she remembered. The once well-kept compound was overgrown with weeds, the walls were cracked, and the paint was peeling. The air smelled of dust and neglect. We're really staying here? Amara complained, wrinkling her nose. This place looks like it's falling apart. Only for a little while, Ngozi said, though she had no idea how long that would be. She unlocked the door, and they were greeted by the musty smell of a house long forgotten. Dust covered the furniture, and cobwebs lined the ceilings. Ngozi pushed through her emotions and forced a smile. We'll clean it up. It'll feel like home soon. Over the next few days, Ngozi worked tirelessly to clean and fix up the house. She scrubbed, mopped, and dusted while trying to find small jobs around the village. But Nsukka was nothing like Lagos. Opportunities were few and money was tight. She began selling homemade chin-chin and teaching children in the village to make ends meet. But it wasn't enough. The children struggled too. Chimdi, despite the change, found ways to adapt. He played football with the village boys and explored the nearby forests. His cheerful attitude kept Ngozi going. But Amara grew bitter, angry that her comfortable life in Lagos was gone. She missed her fancy school shopping trips and the luxuries she used to enjoy. "I hate this place, Mummy," Amara yelled one night. "If you hadn't messed up with Daddy, we wouldn't be stuck here." Ngozi's heart broke a little more every time Amara lashed out, but she had no answers to give. She knew she was doing everything she could, but it felt like everything was slipping away. One evening, after a particularly hard day of selling chin-chin at the market, Ngozi sat at the kitchen table staring at a stack of unpaid bills. She had already pawned most of her jewelry, and her savings were nearly gone. Tears welled up in her eyes, but she wiped them away quickly. She couldn't afford to break down. Desperate for a solution, she decided to search through the old belongings her father had left behind in the attic. Maybe there was something of value she could sell. The attic was cluttered with old furniture, boxes, and dusty items from decades past. After hours of sorting through the mess, her eyes fell on an old wooden trunk tucked in the corner, half covered by a worn-out wrapper. She remembered her father used to keep the trunk in his bedroom. Her father, Chief Okeke, had always been secretive about the trunk, often saying, "Some things are better left alone, my daughter." But now, in her desperation, she couldn't afford to leave anything alone. She dragged the trunk to the center of the attic and pried it open. Inside, she found stacks of old documents, letters, and keepsakes. It all seemed worthless, just the remnants of her father's life. But then she noticed a thick envelope sealed with wax, with the initials CO scrawled on it. Her heart raced as she opened it. Inside was a letter from a law firm in Lagos, dated over 40 years ago. It revealed that during the 1970s oil boom, her father had invested in a small oil company that had later merged with one of the biggest corporations in Nigeria, Oando Petroleum. The letter said her father's shares had grown in value and were now worth millions. Ngozi's hands trembled. Could this be real? Had her father kept this a secret all these years? Could she, a woman struggling to feed her children, be sitting on a fortune? The next day, Ngozi called the law firm mentioned in the letter, but it no longer existed. After hours of research, she discovered that the firm had merged with a larger one in Lagos. She immediately scheduled a meeting with a lawyer to verify the documents. Weeks passed, and Ngozi worked with her lawyer, Barrister Emeka, to gather more evidence and file a claim with Oando Petroleum. The legal process was slow, but Emeka was confident that Ngozi had a valid case. But just as things seemed to be moving forward, Ngozi received an unexpected phone call from Emeka. "I heard about the inheritance," Emeka said, his voice smug. "I think it's time we talk about what's fair for the children. Legally, half of anything you inherit belongs to Amara and Chimdi." Ngozi's stomach tightened. Of course, Emeka would try to claim the money. He had already taken everything else. Why wouldn't he try to take this too? Soon after, Emeka filed a legal claim, arguing that the children were entitled to half of the inheritance. To Ngozi's shock, Amara, manipulated by her father's promises of wealth, sided with him. "Mummy, why are you being so selfish?" Amara said one evening. "Dad says the money belongs to us, not just you. Why are you keeping it all to yourself?" Ngozi felt the sting of betrayal, but she remained calm. Amara, I'm trying to protect your future. This money isn't just about wealth. Your father only wants to control us again. You're just mad because Daddy is smarter than you, Amara said coldly before storming out. Ngozi collapsed onto the bed, tears flowing freely. She had lost her marriage, her home, and now it felt like she was losing her daughter too. The legal battle was intense, with Emeka's lawyers using every dirty trick to discredit Ngozi. They argued that she had no right to the shares, and Emeka's team made it seem like she was trying to defraud the company. But then, during the final hearing, Barrister Emeka revealed a piece of evidence that shocked everyone. Emeka had known about the shares for years. He had discovered the documents shortly after Chief Okeke's death, but chose not to pursue them because of potential complications. Now, he was using the children as pawns to claim the money. The courtroom fell silent. Emeka's smug expression disappeared as the truth came out. The judge ruled in Ngozi's favor, dismissing Emeka's claim and awarding her full control of the shares. It was a hard-won victory, but it was bittersweet. Amara, angry and manipulated by her father, refused to speak to Ngozi for weeks. Slowly, however, Ngozi began to rebuild her life. She used the money to secure a stable future for herself and her children. She invested in land, started a small business, and ensured Chimdi and Amara would never have to struggle the way she had. In time, Amara realized the truth. She saw through her father's manipulation and returned to her mother, full of regret for the way she had acted. Though their relationship was strained, Ngozi forgave her, knowing the scars of betrayal would take time to heal. In the end, Ngozi realized that the true inheritance wasn't the money her father left behind, but the strength and resilience she had discovered within herself. Dear viewers, thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this story, please subscribe to our channel for more inspiring stories like this every day. Share your thoughts with us in the comments.